Well, obviously, we're excited about this season. Looking forward to getting started with our first official day of practice today. Uh, Knock on wood, our guys are all healthy. That's the most important thing this time of year, and then obviously in the off season, trying to make sure all your guys are in great shape. They're in training, but staying healthy through workouts is something the head coach always worries about. So we're about as healthy as you could hope to be this time of year. And so we got all 12 scholarship guys full go, and all 3 of our non-scholarship guys are all ready to go today. So that's the most important thing right now, and it's just a building process, and we're ready to get started. We got great senior leadership on this team, so I know there's a lot of excitement in our community about this team, which we appreciate. But the fact that we have great senior leadership, and Gary and Kyle are the reasons the coaching staff's probably so excited about our season. I think the older I get, the more I realize that players determine outcomes in more ways than just points and rebounds and stat sheets. Locker room, culture, things of that nature are the things that have allowed us to continue to be successful. So those 2 guys have been unbelievable to our program. So we're going to try to have a great year this year for Gary and Kyle, and send them out on a high note. And they deserve it. They're awesome kids, and we're lucky to have them. On a personal note, I'm getting a little bit older, so this is my 12th year as a head coach, so I don't take it for granted. It's an honor to be the coach here, and something that I appreciate. I appreciate all the support I've gotten over the years. So this day is just as exciting for me as it was 12 years ago. So, I wake up I think I got up today at 5 a.m. And without an alarm clock. So and if you're not doing that as a coach, you maybe should get out. Especially with the team we have and the guys we have on this team, you probably shouldn't be coaching if you weren't excited to wake up today and you're in my position coaching these guys. So just looking forward to getting started.
How are you different now than 12 years ago when you took the job of being a coach?
If you go back to those stock pictures 12 years ago, I had a lot more hair. Not that I was ever had the Ken Bruce coiffé, but I'd say I had a lot more hair back then. I try not to think back to 12 years ago. You go, our business, personnel is everything. You'd like to think you're a little bit smarter and you're a little bit more mature, and you cannot devalue experience. But I was coach at Murray State. We won a lot of games, so I was awfully young. But then then all of a sudden your personnel changes and your competition changes, and you're not as smart anymore. So over time, hopefully you get a little bit better at your job just because of your experience and your wisdom. But I'm still a believer in coaches our fate is all tied to our personnel.
You mentioned the expectations and excitement about this team. What do you like about this team, maybe as opposed to the rest of the team?
Well, talent is always number one. Talent is number one. Coaches can talk all they want about, hey, I really like coaching this guy. I like coaching this guy. It's a great group of guys. But then the games start, and if you're not winning, you're just not having any fun. And especially this day and age, there's so much pressure on the kids, the sports world with social media, and so the attention's it's good because when you win you get it all, but it's also rough if you get beat. So. I think as far as in relation to expectations, you'd rather have them high than low. There's no doubt about that. But I think ours are legitimate because I think our personnel is legitimate. We've got some proven players that are quality players. Now, obviously, our point guard situation. Justin's played here, but hasn't had the opportunity with Troy that he's going to have this year, and obviously Kane being in his first year. Other than that, we Jaron played a lot last year, and we're high on all our freshmen. So I think it's legitimate, and you have to welcome it. I think that being said, we probably won't even be picked to win our league. Well, I don't know why they wouldn't. They have the same film that we watched when we decided to recruit him on as a transfer. I think the surprise would be the fans that haven't seen him. Nowadays in the scouting reports, you can YouTube a high school guy that's going to be a freshman at Bellarmine in our first exhibition game, and we're gonna have film on him from his high school days. So I don't think he's going to be any shock to our opponents. I think. Probably our style of play with Kane and Justin being much quicker, faster point guards is something that would be a big difference when you talk to our players and what we've worked on since last season ended. I think we're a deeper team, we're a more athletic team, and we have much more speed at the point guard position. Style of play probably will help Justin, where playing with in a style that was conducive to Troy. And playing at a speed that Troy was really effective at wasn't best for Justin Jennifer, and maybe wasn't best for some other guys on our team, but it's what we had to do to win 30 games. So, I think Kane's speed and quickness are definitely things that he brings to the table, his elusiveness. But we'll see. I'm not one to put expectations and hype on kids. I think there's obviously a lot of excitement. Whenever a guy transfers, everybody's always excited about the guy that sat out. So last year it was Kyle, this year it's Kane. The guy that sat out's always the greatest player in the world.
With the expectation, touch on this a little bit, a lot of the national magazines, national guys are picking you top 10, top 15, that kind of thing. We talk about this every year, but what's your reaction to it?
Well, we're used to being underrated. Let's be honest. I think and that's a program thing. So I think our most of our players were underrated as recruits, and we're used to being underrated as a team. We're a team that that traditionally starts off unranked and ends up ranked over the last period of years. So just have to embrace it and make sure that you realize that this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you're unranked. It can't all of a sudden matter when you're ranked. It really has no relevance. So it's a big part of my job, and I think all coaches nowadays, with all the hype and noise around the game, to make sure your players realize that none of it matters. And you got to focus on getting to work. So usually we're pretty good at that around here. We just get, I think there's no doubt that stuff's out there. But I think our guys will find out once we get started. It doesn't matter. It only matters in that it fuels your opponents. You're not sneaking up on anybody. And we have some veteran guys that understand that. Because any team that's ranked, it's just like if you were to ask our guys, they're going to look and see, oh, well, we get to play UCLA. They beat us, they knocked us out of the tournament. It's UCLA. So, yeah, for a lot of other teams on our schedule, they're going to look and say, well, we get to play Cincinnati. They're ranked wherever. So, you're going to take team's best shot, and you better be able to deal with that. That's probably the most that comes from it.
Defensively, you talked about your athleticism. Is this a team you feel like you can maybe apply a little bit more pressure?
Well, speed and quickness at the guard position, and depth and athleticism on this team with 6 big guys that are capable. And I think that just Justin and Kane are much more adept at pressure out front. Obviously, they're not going to be able to do some of the things Troy did in guarding bigger people. So strategically, we'll do a lot of different stuff with those guys, which will be available to our opponents on film once we start playing. But we're not going to sit there and talk about it right now.
You said a little bit, you're going to Bellarmine for an exhibition game. Why is it a road game? Is that intentional?
Well, obviously the dates with Northern Kentucky, and they're bending over backwards for us already. I wanted to continue to play Bellarmine and trying to be able to play them on a date that fit their schedule as well as ours. It was just a lot easier to play the game down there. So we requested a waiver from the NCAA. Be good for us, you don't really usually get to play an exhibition game on the road in a hostile environment. So I think it's great for us. It's going to be a tough game. They're preseason top 5 in the country like they are every year in Division II, and they're going to be at home this year. So I think it's great. It's going to be great for us be a tough situation for our guys, put them in some adversity our first time out.
You usually have a player or two every year who made a lot of improvement over the summer. Is there some way, is there one guy you could single out, two guys?
Tough on this team because they all work so hard. I think the players may have different opinions on that, and the problem is if I sit here and say it, then the fans are going to expect the guy to be awesome. I think they've all worked hard. I think if there's a hallmark of our program, it's that they all improve as they get older. And the biggest jump usually a guy would make would be freshman to sophomore year. So for Jaron, Trey, and Nasir, I would think that they would all be much more consistent this year and more comfortable and confident. It's a big jump from high school to high-level Division I. For most guys. So so I think those three guys I would look just from the history tells you, and they all work really hard. They're great kids, and they all work really hard. I think I'm looking for Justin to probably be a lot more of a factor than everybody that wants to ask about Kane all the time. And those guys, to me, in our style of play, are trying to set up so those guys can play together maybe at times and all be a factor for us. So, with this team, we got a lot of hard workers, though. I mean, a lot of guys that spend a lot of time in the gym and really try to get better. Even Gary and Kyle, they're older, but, I think the finality of knowing that this is your last chance sometimes helps a guy. As a guy like Gary, who sometimes maybe isn't as aggressive as we would all like him to be. Even he's a great guy, but he's very, very bright. And he's bright enough to know that this is his last year. So, maybe that spurs him on to being a little bit more aggressive throughout games. Yeah, I think we have to embrace our situation. I was not involved in where we were going to play at all. So, when I was told where we were going to play, my job's to make sure, how do I make the best of it? You have to embrace it, just like an injury. A guy gets hurt, you got to walk into your locker room and say, hey, are you capable? Are you capable? All right, then we have no excuse. Let's go win games. So I think from our ticket sales, our fans are embracing it. So we just all have to embrace it. And when we play games over there, turn it into at BB&T Arena, we turn it into our home gym. There's a lot of people that don't play on campus around the country, a whole lot of people that don't play on campus. So we're just going to embrace it. We don't really talk about stuff like that because I just don't think it matters where the game should be played or where the game's being played. It's who's tough enough, who's ready to play, and who's tough enough to execute and get the win. So, we're not going to use it as any type of excuse, I can tell you that. So my job is to make sure we just all embrace it and make sure that we know that this is a home game. I don't care if it's BB&T Arena or Fifth Third Arena. I don't own stock in either bank, so it shouldn't matter.
Coach, offensively, in order to be more consistent in certain situations like on the road.
But I think we were pretty consistent. We won 30 games.
Yeah, I mean, as far as scoring in certain games on the road, things like that.
I think everybody has that problem. I don't mean to cut you off, but I know that gets talked about in our program, and we're a great defensive team year in and year out, but so is Michigan State. So is Kansas. That's why they've won 12 straight Big 12 championships. Now we haven't had the lottery picks. That's the answer to your question. Okay, you have to have lottery picks to be able to go to the Final Four. Okay, so I'm going to give you what I told this team. They have big aspirations. Those teams, when Oregon played North Carolina in the semifinals, there was about 6-7 guys got drafted or going to get drafted, minimum. Okay. If we play in that game, guys around here are going to get drafted, and my guys would all like to get drafted. That's the answer. You go playing top 10, top 15 teams, okay? We play UCLA. They got a guy that got drafted in the first round that played 3 minutes in the game. So, I mean, it's just a factor. I mean, it's all relative. Your offense is great against certain teams. But what we talk about around here, like the guys will tell you, when you're playing on the road to get at SMU, you got to make shots. It's not rocket science. You got to have a guy he's got answers. You know, like when the New England Patriots, they got a guy he's an answer. It's not the play they're drawing up. It's the guy dropping back at quarterback. You got to have answers. Now, will we have more answers on this team? We'll see. Time will only tell, but it's all relative, though. So what happens is, like early in the season, we win a game, score 100 points. Oh, they got all these answers. We'll see when conference play rolls around, or when you go play at Xavier. Then you're really going to find out how many answers you got. So it's just all relative. I mean, there is no prediction, and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. You got to have answers. You know, in 1999, 2000, when we were whatever we were, 30-1 until Kenyon broke his leg or whatever happened that year. You know, Bob Huggins used to ask me, "What do you think tonight? We're on the road at wherever we were on the road." I'd say, "Well, hold on, I'll tell you." About 4 minutes later, Kenyon Martin walked on the bus, Logan walked on the bus, Satterfield walked on the bus, and then Pete Michael walked on the bus. I said, "I think we're in good shape." He goes, "What just changed?" I said, "Well, they made the bus." If they made the bus, I thought we were in pretty good shape that year, until one of them broke his ankle. We weren't as in good a shape anymore. I mean, it just is what it is. You know, we try to develop these guys, recruit the best guys we can, but at the end of the day, as you know, when you go play top teams and the elite teams, you want to make a run, you got to have somebody putting that ball in the basket. He's got to have answers. You're not drawing any plays up to win. When the rubber met the road last year, we were playing UCLA. They started making shots. We needed to make shots with them. We didn't. We had good shots. We shared the ball. We didn't make them. End of story. We're dominating the game at SMU, and then all of a sudden we couldn't make a shot. There is no remedy for that as a coach, because those teams, you can't just press them and they're going to cough it up. At the elite level, you're playing the best teams. You watch a game in the Final Four of North Carolina against Oregon, and then against Gonzaga. Maybe guys making shots now. Got guys putting the ball in the basket. You're not going to defend and scrap your way to the national championship. You're going to have some guys make some plays. So we'll see. You get some guys with some talent. They work awfully hard. It won't be for lack of effort around here, I can tell you that.
I know you don't like to say things before the fact, and going off of that, they're going off of not being able to sleep the night before practice.
Well, I slept. I just got up early.
Without an alarm clock, whatever.
Getting older, I go to bed a lot earlier, yeah.
Still no alarm clock, getting up hype for the season. When you look at this team, and you haven't went out there yet, but as a coach, I'm sure you were excited last season and the season before, but as you've been saying with the personnel that you have now and the way that you're going to be able to play and change the way you play, does that change your excitement level for you as a coach with this group that you have?
I think it'd be unfair to say I'm more excited to coach this team than any other one. I think that this team maybe has some ability offensively. They have we have some playmakers and some veterans. When you look at a team and say, okay, well, what you talk about chances to get more points and to be more of an elite team. Well, you better have talent, and then you better have experience. And around here, usually we have to be older to win. And sometimes we've had some older, tougher teams, and they've won. But I think you're alluding to we maybe have a little bit more firepower. I think it'll depend. I think our guard play will be key. If you look at our returning front line, those guys all shot a high clip. Kyle and Gary both shot over 50% from the field. Jacob Evans shot over 42 or whatever he shot for the year, maybe 46% from the field. Our guards last year struggled. They shot 37% from the field. We still won 30 games, but can we get two more guys shooting over 40% from the field? That'll be the key. I think my excitement level goes from the two reasons: talent on the team and then really good kids on the team. But I think there's unknown. I think we wouldn't be telling the truth if it wasn't an unknown. I mean, as much as we talk about speed and Justin and Kane is different and athleticism, Troy's still not here now. He won a lot of games. Second winningest player in the history of the school, and he maybe didn't have the best senior year individually, but he finished a lot of games for us. And so there's an area where we're going to have somebody step up as a finisher. I think that to win games and do some of the things that we've been able to do and pulling out close games, road games. Somebody got to have the ball late in the game and make a play. So You know, it's usually got to be a guard. You can't be a big guy that just double team him. You got to have somebody to be able to have the ball out front late in the game and make a play that the other team's coach just can't take away from you. So hopefully we got some guys that are ready for that role. I think we do, but we'll see. That's the beauty of not knowing. You know, where you know what's on Jacob Evans' mind. How aggressive is he going to be this year? How confident is he going to be? You can only try to instill so much confidence in a guy and talk to a guy about that. You know, ultimately it's going to be on him to, you know, what's his mindset? Is he on a mission at the end of the day? You hope he is. You try to instill all the confidence you want in him. But he hasn't had we don't have a guy. You know, Troy's had the ball at the end of games for us. People that follow us and watch us and cover us. I mean, he's had the ball at the end of games for a couple of years for us. So that'll be a big difference, probably the biggest difference for this team that would make me nervous. All the rest of the stuff's exciting, but that's real. And then, you know, until we get in that moment where other guys are going to have the ball at the end of the game, you know, you don't know how it's going to go. So that would lend me to not sleep.
Coach, can you talk about development, how important Mike Renfro was for your guys in the summertime? And it seems like they tasted success last year, so they pushed themselves a bit hard.
Well, I think, first of all, Mike's his best at his job in the country, in my opinion. But I think that, you know, when your culture is what it is, but then you top the icing on the cake is when you have players that are mature. So, you know, we have guys that are intelligent enough to know that their conditioning and their development of their athleticism, it's not just a strength program, that the off season's important. Well, you got guys like that are committed and they understand that they all want to get better and that's all part of it, not just shooting jump shots, but also being a better athlete, being a stronger athlete, a better conditioned athlete. It's all part of, you know, this day and age, that if you're not in it, I think you're really missing the boat if you're not into strength, conditioning, rest, recovery, nutrition, and everything that goes on with the new rules in college basketball. I think if you're not on the cutting edge of that stuff, you're giving away a huge chip of what you could do to win some games. So we try to stay on top of all that. Mike's awesome at it. I'm very fortunate to have him. And our training staff is as well. You know, from me, we take it serious. Our guys know that we take it serious. And it starts in a recruiting process, though, with us. But it really, really helps when you have mature veteran players because they're into it. They understand the importance of it. You know, I saw something last year. I saw guys complaining that we had too much fried food at a post-game meal. That's when I knew that we were really getting through to some guys. I never thought I'd see that from a college basketball team. They were complaining about French fries and chicken fingers. I couldn't get Sean Kilpatrick to eat anything else for 5 years.